I'm Annie Schusler, business coach for therapists, and I'm bringing you tips for creating a great therapy website. I'm interviewing web designer Kat Love today. Kat designs websites just for therapists, and she's generously sharing a lot of advice with us. Listen in particular as she tells us about the mistakes she sees therapists making over and over again and how to fix them, how to choose the best images for your website, and what you need to do when you're transitioning from having a do-it-yourself website to working with a designer. I'm talking to Kat Love, and Kat, the reason I wanted to talk to you is that you're really unique in that you focus on creating websites just for therapists, and you're amazing at it. And I've noticed that your websites are always really modern and elegant. And I noticed you could obviously be working with any group of people, and I'm wondering why you choose to work with therapists.
First of all, thank you so much for saying those nice words about my work. Yeah, I'm really trying hard to create just for therapists, as you said. And one of the big reasons that I chose to work with therapists is because I'm a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And because of that experience, I've really needed to call on therapists throughout my life. And I've had such a positive experience working with therapists that I am totally inspired by the way that you guys choose to help people and like dedicate so much of your time to helping others. And it just really motivates me.
That's amazing. And it's also it's amazing that when you come out about that and when you talk about being a survivor, but also about seeking out therapy, it really removes a lot of stigma. So yeah, thank you for talking about that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And so let's get into your really valuable advice for therapists. What there are some different mistakes that we see therapists making on their websites over and over again, and we want to help them stop making. What kinds of mistakes in content and language and copy do you see therapists making over and over again?
Yeah, so one mistake that I see a lot or that I experience a lot as a website designer is people that believe that their website designer is going to write their website for them. And these are actually two very separate tasks. The website designer is usually responsible for the look and feel of the website, and then a writer would be someone who could write content or copy. And so a lot of times people or therapists too will contact the website designer and be like, okay, let's make a website. And they anticipate that that a designer is going to be taking care of that writing piece, and they don't have anything prepared yet. And you actually need to have your content prepared in order to have your website designed. So you need to have that finished so that a designer can do their best work designing around your message and your solutions. And so a mistake is to kind of put that kind of responsibility on the website designer when it shouldn't be. And then also like not a piece of that is also not realizing how much work it takes to write a website as well. Like it's very normally underestimated how much time and energy it can take just to even write one page.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's so much strategy into figuring out what those pages should say, and then writing and then editing. So yeah, that's very validating to hear you say that. It validates what I've been seeing too. So let's think about, well, and I think one reason why that's so important is that therapists end up losing some of their potentially best clients, I think, because they haven't then gotten across on their websites what they do so well and how they could be helping those people. So it's so important. And what about, getting into what you really do, what kinds of visual mistakes do you see therapists making on their websites?
Yeah, so there are a lot, but um, I feel bad saying that because I love you guys, but when it comes to therapy websites in particular, I feel like I see kind of this non-clarity around the things that are really necessary to put on a page in terms of design elements and also functionality. An example of that is I often see social share buttons that are on like a services page. And I
Mhm.
know it's like really hard to resist and everyone wants like the next shiny object on their website. But when you put like social share buttons on a services page, it doesn't really make sense visually because a lot of times those buttons are like big and bright and like grab your attention. And so you're actually distracting people away from reading about your solution and how you can help them. That's the first problem.
Mhm.
And then the second problem is it's also not really that appropriate. It's kind of like asking somebody to sell your services for you, like, hey, share my page about, sexual addiction treatment on your social media.
Mhm.
It's like, it doesn't feel good, like those every button and every action that's a visitor can take on your website, you're actually inviting them to do something. So you have to think, is this something that I want to invite them to do?
Mhm.
So that's definitely one mistake. It's just having like this idea of like, oh, the more I put on the website, the better, but it
Mhm.
doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And when people are feeling pulled in a lot of different directions, then it seems like that also makes them a lot less likely to do the most important thing that you would really want them to do. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So having too many invitations or calls to action, too many calls to action on a page will lead to kind of this paralysis where people don't know what it is to do next. And you as the
Hmm.
professional should be the one to say, hey, this is the best next step for you at this
Hmm.
point in my website.
Hmm. Okay, great. And so it kind of mirrors the therapy process in that way that if you're guiding someone through your website in a really clear way, then that helps them know that therapy with you is also probably going to be a comfortable process rather than kind of chaotic and confusing.
Exactly. That is such a good way to put it because it is kind of a lot of times people their first impression of you is going to be on your website. And so if it's chaotic and it has too many choices and they feel overwhelmed and they're not having a good emotional experience from that first impression, that's, you know, could be indicative of the relationship they think they might have with you.
Hmm. So true. And really, what it's usually about is just therapists not knowing that language of websites. What kind of suggestions do you have about images that therapists should be using on their websites?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Um, Images are really important because they communicate with website visitors on a different level than anything else. Colors communicate things, layout, spacing communicates, words, your copy obviously communicates, but images are in um, their own category of communication, and they're really quickly understood and felt by the website visitor. And
Mhm.
so we need to be very thoughtful when we pick images for a psychotherapy website. Um, what I like to see are, I kind of put images into three categories. One category is images that validate your user's experience, your website visitor's experience. So for instance, if you're working with people that have struggle with depression, you could have images that connect with that place of feeling of being in depression.
Mhm.
Um, and then the next category of images is the what I call the destination images. So this is, where do they want to be? Where do they want, their life to be, and how could it get better for them? And so you would show pictures of not the opposite of depression, but of maybe being calm and being balanced and feeling free, or feeling, this is a great kind of thought exercise to do in terms of empathizing with your clients and really feeling into what it is that they desire in their life, and being able to choose images that kind of demonstrate that in that category. And then the third category are like kind of calming images. I also kind of call them emotionally neutral, but they're not completely neutral. I would say that they're towards the side of being calm and feeling a sense of trust. So images that are like a really calm beach, or just something very, something just calming that doesn't have a lot of activation in it. And so from these three categories, you can choose different types of images that speak to your ideal client and speak to the entire journey that they're on.
That's beautiful. It also really, a lot of that mirrors the kind of work that people need to do about their copy. It's like it all really works together beautifully.
Right. So if you're working with a copywriter, I know one approach is that they talk to kind of the pains of your website visitor, the gains that they're wanting to make, and then you offer them a solution, which is your services. So it kind of does actually follow that model of recognizing the different stages that your client may be in or going to.
Yeah. A lot of therapists right now have some kind of do-it-yourself website that they're using, and then they get to the point where they're ready to hire a designer. What do you think they should be doing to prepare to work with a designer?
Yeah, so that is an awesome question, because there are a lot of great things that you can do to really to make you prepared, but also these types of things can help you have a better result. So, I mean, that's really what it's about, is like the more you put in, the more you can get out of that web design project as well. So I think the things that I would recommend, I actually could narrow it down to three things. The first thing is to get some clarity around what it is you do and who it is you serve. And it's really important to be clear on the service part, like the audience part, because lots of web designers are designing for the user. They're not designing for you or your grandmother. They're designing for the client that you want to attract. And so if you have a lot of clarity around who you're trying to attract, and what it is that you're trying to serve them with, what type of services you have, that's going to be kind of like the foundation of any type of design in any part of your business, including business cards and all of that other stuff too, but also web design. Clarity is the first step. The second step is copy, which we already talked about before. So is to just, if you already have a website, you can go through your current website and kind of audit what it is that's on your current website, see what's working, see what isn't. Go back to that clarity stage that you just worked on, and find out, kind of evaluate whether or not your website copy is actually speaking to your ideal client. And some of that also is going to be some strategy stuff at that point too, like, is your navigation easy or difficult? Is your organization of content logical? Do you really need a contact form on the homepage, or so some of that is just like, look at the written stuff and the interactive stuff that's on each page, and try and come up with you can hire help with this. You don't have to do that part of any of this stuff alone. So yeah, first clarity, then copy, and then you can also do like kind of a design review, and that's kind of, I guess some people would say this is the fun part, where it's like you get to think about colors and you get to think about images, and you can again look at your current website and say what's working, what isn't working, and you can use that as a starting off point. You can also do a lot of research, see what else is out there on the web, what's working, what isn't, what makes you you can track your emotional reactions to things too. I mean, I think a lot of this is about how things feel emotionally to your website visitor. So tracking that, like, how do you feel when you look at a website that is bright red, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And take notes on that and bring it all to your designer, and they're going to be like thrilled. They're going to like, you're going to be the best client ever.
Yeah, and then they'll really be able to help you. That's so
Right.
valuable.
So yeah.
This is really, really helpful. And I think a lot of people who are hearing this interview are going to be wanting to know how they can work with you. So what's the best way to get in touch with
Aw.
you, Kat?
I am online
Mhm.
as catlove.com. Catlove.com is my website with a K, KATLOVE.com.
Mhm.
I'm also on Twitter at catlovedesign, so you can tweet me and say hi that way too.
Okay, excellent. And when someone does start, just one last question. When someone does start working with you, what are the first steps? What would typically happen first when they contact you?
For me personally,
Yeah.
I like to start with an interview, and I do
Mhm.
that. It's free of charge. It's just a kind of opportunity for us to meet face to face online,
Mhm.
and get to know each other and figure out what it is that you need in a website and see if I'm a good match for you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Kat. This has been incredibly helpful.